Welcome to the Complete Van YouTube channel, where today we're driving the new Volkswagen Multivan. It's an all new model and it forms part of a new strategy. There's still going to be the Transporter 6.1 as we know it, and that would include the California, and further down the line we're going to have the ID Buzz and the ID Buzz Cargo, which is a fully electric version. The Multivan is an all new model. It's going to take up much more of the passenger market and very much designed as much for businesses as it is for families. It's going to start in Ireland with this plug-in hybrid version. It's a 1.4 litre petrol engine combined with a 13 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery, which means it won't take very long to charge, and it will probably cover most of your typical everyday commutes if you're doing the school run or any shorter journeys using only electric power. But let's have a look around it. Well, first of all, it's built on the MQB platform that underpins a whole host of Volkswagen Group products, everything from Audi to Skoda to Cupra. They all use some type of variant of this, but Volkswagen Commercial has paid a lot of attention to changing this and adapting it. So it gets specific suspension and it gets a very distinct body style. So the engine, the whole bonnet here is set a little bit more forward, and then as you come around the side here, it's very much built for this two-tone look, but you can get it in regular colors. You've got extra window area here, so your visibility, particularly in urban built-up areas, is very good. It's very easy to see the more vulnerable road users that you have. The Multivan will only come with a single wheelbase, but will come in two body lengths. So the longer version gets an extra 20 centimeters on the back end, and that's really just to give an extra bit of boot space. Both sides get sliding doors and they're electrically operated on this particular model, and the seats inside are now all individual. So in the back you don't get that big heavy clunky bench seat that there used to be in cars like the Shuttle or in vans like the Shuttle. Then around the back you can also get an electrically operated tailgate. Does make it a lot handier because these often can be a little bit heavy. And when you open that up, you've got, again, very easy access, the usual sort of thing that we want. It's got a nice low load height. You can equip this for towing as well. And then in the rear, you've got a very modular setup. The rails, depending on which version you get, will come all the way along the back. They're also electrified, so you can actually have heated seats even though they all move around. And if you don't need to have the seats in, you need to move some bigger items, you can take everything out, and you've got over 4,000 litres of cargo capacity. Inside you have that traditional van-like elevated driving position. Visibility is fantastic out here, especially having this extra area here. The door mirrors are very well positioned. You've got great visibility there as well, but you still have the usual blind spot monitors. There's actually a lot of driver assistance systems available on this, partly down to that MQB platform. But let's talk about the interior, because this is a very modern interior. It draws a little bit from what we've seen in the latest Transporter models, but also a little bit from the passenger side. So you've got a nice slightly flat bottom steering wheel here. You've got very easy tactile controls here. You've got heated steering wheels and all sort of functions like that. It's very easy to adjust your cruise control and various functions like that. There's a digital instrument display as standard. It's configurable, so you can change it around depending on what view you want to have. You can have your map up there, or you can have your map on the 10-inch touchscreen display on the center here. It's all more or less done through touch or through capacitive buttons here, so you can adjust your temperature controls or your volume just by sliding your finger up and down here. And to maximize space, the shift-by-wire for the DSG is mounted here on top of the dashboard, so it's right where you want it. Frees up all this space here in between. You've got your electric handbrake in there as well, and then you pop this out, you've got two cup holders down here, a little bit of extra storage, you can drop stuff on there. There's also 12-volt power socket, and in here you have a wireless charging pad, so you can just pop in your phone and have it charging away while you drive without having to worry about faffing wires around and all that. And you've got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as well, and they're available wirelessly. There's a glove box here, so you can open that up. You've got some extra space down there, and there's also underneath this very unusual and quite modern looking from Volkswagen fascia, you've got an extra bit of storage in there too. The electrically operated side doors can also be operated from here as well, so if you do need to just drop the kids off or drop a passenger off, you can open them and close them from here, so they don't have to worry about that too. There's a head-up display in front of you, and there's a pretty decent rearward visibility as well. And because even if you do have people in the back, the window is tall enough that you can still see out the back pretty easily. And obviously you've got a pretty good reversing camera as well. You can actually have 360 views when you're parking as well. So again, there's a lot of modern features in here, but it's also the quality. This is a very much more like what you'd expect to get in a good passenger car in terms of quality, the materials that are used. Granted, this is quite a high spec model, but it's all very well finished, it's very well built. There's numerous amounts of storage throughout. Even the door bins here are nice and deep. There's extra places to put your drinks, and everything like that is all very easily accessible and quite ergonomic as well. Because you don't have any sort of, because you've had that shift by wire system as well, it means you've got all this extra space here. So if you do need to park up, you can very easily just walk straight through. And top spec models will also include a center console that's on rails, and it will slide forward and back between the front and the rear, and it opens up into a table as well. So there's a heap of functionality inside, but as good as it is up here, it's even better in the back. Now in the back, there's a lot of room back here, and you've got this huge panoramic glass roof as well, so it adds a little bit more light coming into the cabin. You've got big generous windows here, and from the rear seats you've got a lot of room around. This currently is set up for just 2 rear seats in the back and 2 facing us, but you can change it around depending on what your requirements are. You could have 3 seats in the back here, or you can just have 1. It's entirely up to you. This is designed to be as versatile as possible. The seats have armrests that pop down, so it's very easy. And even up here, you've got a good space to have your elbow. You've got some storage in here, a 12-volt socket. You've got a cup holder on top. There's even an extra USB-C port. This thing is littered with ways to charge your devices, so your adults or your kids are going to be very, very happy in the back. But there's a lot of other features because you've also got these other seats. Now the middle seats you could have, depending on which way you want it, you can have them facing the person in the rear seat, so you can have a conference style, or you can have them flip the other way and have everyone facing forwards. It's entirely up to you. They're also heated and the rails are electrified, so that means that you can still move them around and you're not going to lose any functionality. Speaking of functionality, you've got this center console unit that can slide all the way along the cabin, so you can have it forward or back. And if you want to have people in the back and maybe they want to do some work or they want to have a meal while they're on the move, you can press this in, it pops up, and you can lift this out, and then you've got some table areas and loads of drink holders, places to put your mobile phone, more storage underneath. It's a very practical unit, and when you don't need it, it all folds up and slides out of the way and doesn't take up a lot of room. That's pretty good. As we showed you earlier in the video, you do sit up nice and high inside the multivan. It's very much like a large SUV in terms of driving position, but obviously you have a slightly shorter front bonnet or overhang in front of you, and overall everywhere you look you've got very easy visibility to your door mirrors. Rearward visibility is not bad, and you get this really great view, particularly because of this split A-pillar, so you can more clearly see any obstacles, whereas traditionally if you're pulling out of a junction that would be a big blind spot in a lot of vehicles. So it's good that it has that. Almost irrespective of the battery's state of charge, the multivan will always try and start its journey using electric power, and throughout that journey it will always try and switch to battery power whenever possible. When the battery is depleted, you then get the 1.4 litre petrol engine comes into life. It's relatively smooth for the most part, but when you do start to push it on or try and drive it with a bit too much vigor, it can at times sound a little bit strained and a little bit lacking in power. This isn't really a massively powerful car. The Hyper system only has a combined output of 218 horsepower, and you'll probably get a little bit more torque from the diesel engine, which is going to come in 2022. But if you're primarily just doing urban journeys or city driving or anything like that, it is more than adequate. You do need to keep that battery topped up if you're going to get close to the claimed manufacturer fuel consumption figures. If you don't and you just leave it off, generally you're probably going to see in and around anywhere from 6 to 7 litres per 100 kilometres. The good news is that even when the battery depletes, it will always try and get back to drawing some power from the battery. It will recuperate energy whenever possible. If you lift and you're going downhill, it will freewheel or coast, it will turn off the combustion engine. So it's always trying to do the best it can from a hybrid perspective. So that is a positive thing. You can, through the drive system, also save or preset a certain level of battery energy to be retained. So for example, if you're driving to a low emission zone and you want to retain a certain amount, say half the battery capacity for then driving around a particular city, you can set that while you're driving and it won't drop below that until you then switch over to the E mode or to the electric mode. So you do have a couple of different choices. There are some driving modes available as well, so you can obviously pick between normal and sport. Quite why you don't want to have a sport mode in this other than going up steeper inclines, I don't really know. It's fine to be left in just the usual comfort mode, and it's actually quite a refined car. Yes, the suspension is a little bit at times a bit firm, particularly when you go over deeper ruts in the road, but generally it's quite well insulated for both road and wind noise. We cruised along the German Autobahn earlier and it was very easy to have a very normal and quiet conversation. You do have a great Harman Kardon stereo as well available if you prefer to have your tunes. For the most part, it's quite a refined package overall on the move. There's reasonably good levels of noise suppression, so you don't get a huge amount of road noise and wind noise coming through, even though this is a big, potentially echoey cabin inside. It probably helps that there's a lot of nice soft materials inside that do help to absorb some of that noise. That refinement though is also shows true in terms of how this car kind of straddles the line between a passenger car and a commercial vehicle or a van, because it doesn't quite behave like a van. It's not quite as utilitarian in how it drives, although at times you do need to be a little bit mindful of how much weight this car has, even without a full accompaniment of passengers inside. Occasionally you do need to be a little bit more aware of just how much weight as you're going into a corner. This isn't exactly a very particularly light vehicle like you might expect from a passenger car, so that is something just to bear in mind. The suspension is quite good, it soaks everything up reasonably well, and only more severe ruts or cracks on the road will kind of jolt through the cabin. Generally speaking, on relatively good tarmac, it's quite composed, quite comfortable. Body roll is very well managed, and the steering has a nice, quite direct feel to it as well. So that's our first look at the new Volkswagen Multivan. It's quite an impressive bit of kit, and certainly it's going to be very popular for families, but this has great potential for taxis, particularly because it's a little bit smaller than a Volkswagen Shuttle or a Volkswagen Transporter. It's going to be that little bit easier for getting in and out of car parks if you're doing hotel runs or anything like that. So it's quite an interesting car. The plug-in hybrid aspect of it won't maybe suit everyone, but the fact that there's going to be a diesel version coming in 2022 should solve that as well. But we'd love to know what you think about this. Is this a really good alternative to maybe a Volkswagen Shuttle or something else? We'd love to know what you think, and we'd love to know what you think the potential is of this new Volkswagen Multivan. So please do get involved in the comments below. Tell us what you think about it. If you want to know more about this, head over to our website, which is completevan.ie. You'll find a lot more detailed reviews of this and also of all of this car's rivals as well. And in the meantime, please do remember to hit the subscribe button as we grow this channel. It's really important to us if you do so. And if you do that, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Next time we upload our next van review, you'll be alerted to that too. For completevan.ie, I'm Dave Humphreys. Thanks for watching.